I was in Sao Paulo, scouting location in a favela, very dangerous favela where they shot City of God. And I came there with the Brazilian producer. When we came to where we came to that favela, they told me, look, from here to the left, you can choose whatever you want to shoot. But here from the right, nothing. And I said, why? I said, yeah, because here they have their dealing and you cannot shoot. And I'm looking and the left look lame, the right look really interesting. And I'm telling the producer, listen, the mafia knows that they're here. They gave us the okay to come here. Just tell them that there's this dumb American director that he wants to see what he wants to see. And the producer comes, says with a long face, no chance, and he leaves. And he comes with a big smile and said, you won't believe it? The head of the mafia is a fan of your movies.
Welcome back to FURYCAST. It is a big show because we have a legend in filmmaking, someone I've been a fan of for quite a long time. He's worked with everyone from Scott Adkins to Dolph Lundgren to Antonio Banderas, Mario Van Peebles, who am I leaving out? Olivier Gruner, and of course,
Van Damme.
I was getting there. You beat me to it. Of course, the legendary JCVD himself, Jean-Claude Van Damme, for the uninitiated. But yes, this man has worked with them all, directed them all, and I have the good pleasure of having him on the show today. Welcome to FURYCAST, Isaac Florentine.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on the show. So first, take us back to, I guess, first give us a quick, for people that may not be familiar with you, a quick 2-minute version of who you are and what you do.
I'm a movie director, and I do mainly action movies or action martial arts. What my late wife used to call junk. But I love it.
And I love it too. I mean, where would I be without films like Desert Kickboxer? I'm serious. I remember picking it up at the video store and taking it home. All right. So tell us where you grew up.
I grew up in Tel Aviv, Israel, and basically in the early 60s. I was born in 58, grew up in the early 60s, and the first 30 years of my life, I lived in Israel. So all the education, all the love for cinema, all the culture, which is living in a small country, it's really multicultural because first you have there people from all over the world. Second, because you're a tiny little country, you absorb a lot of culture, especially movies from so many countries. And every movie is basically what is called a foreign movie for us. So you see them with subtitles. So it doesn't matter if it's an Italian movie, Chinese movie, French movie, or American movie, it's all coming with subtitles. So there is no preference. If the movie is good, then the movie is good. If it's bad, then it's bad.
Now, I've never thought of that, every film being a foreign film for you guys. Did Menachem help change that from Canon Films?
No, it was way before. Menachem Golan, who is really a legend, a real giant, helped created the industry within Israel. But always the industry in Israel was kind of artistic movie on one side, and what was called more movies, kind of more, not the masses there, but more folky movies to the others. And Menachem really created, in a way, helped to create the commercialized movie in Israel. And then, in the 70s, after he did Operation Thunderbolt, that was about the Entebbe operation,
Mm-hmm.
He basically came to the States and bought Canon, and the rest is history, basically.
Absolutely. Once again, I mean, the films, I mean, even Bloodsport. I mean, I was fortunate enough to see Bloodsport in theaters
Me too.
Yeah, big fan of what Canon did, but also a big fan of what you've done. So take us back first to your martial arts journey, how you first got interested in the martial arts.
I heard about when I was a kid. there was judo. But really, the first interest that I had was in a James Bond movie that I saw, I think, around 1967, You Only Live Twice. And I was a 9-year-old kid, and I'm going to see that was the first of all, the first James Bond movie I
Was that
ever
the
saw.
one with ninjas?
Yes,
Hmm.
that's the one that the fight choreographer was martial arts legend Don Drager.
Hmm.
And if you look at it, the fights are still valid. And I saw it and I was fascinated by the Japanese culture and by the Japanese martial arts, and especially seeing karate on screen. Because they had their people from the Kyokushinkai school of Masoyama, and they were doing some breaks and some demonstration, and I was blown away. I remember I saw this movie in a matinee, and then I didn't tell my parents. I saw it 3 times more in a matinee. It's like they didn't know. That was, I think, the very first movie that I went and I saw again and again and again, only for the martial arts scenes.
I did the
And
same with Bloodsport. Yeah.
you did with Bloodsport, and since then it was my dream to basically learn karate. And that was in 1967 around. And I remember asking my brother, my older brother is 8.5 years older than me, and I asked him, there's really something called karate that you can really hit a person and really injure him severely, maybe even kill him. And he told me yes. Around 1970 or 69, we had the Tokyo Circus visiting Tel Aviv. And the same story, they had the karate demonstrations there. I went to see it again and again and again for only one reason, the karate demonstrations. And around 1971, they opened a dojo very close to my house. And I wanted very much to study it. And I asked my parents to do it. They were totally against it because for them, it, they saw it as violent, like boxing. They were both Holocaust survivors, and they were really rejecting. They were afraid that I'll go and I'll get injured, and basically I was driving them crazy again and again and again. And I told them there's no reason. I'm a good student at school. Please let me go and study it. My father said, okay, in one condition, please keep on playing guitar. So you can see there's a guitar behind me.
Yes.
I keep on playing it. And I started. And even then it was hard because they told me you have to start with judo because karate was for the tough guys, for me. So I had to start with judo. And then still I was begging them and driving them crazy to let me start also the karate class. And finally, they let me. Once they let me, I made a pact with myself that I will never, ever, ever quit. Doesn't matter if I'm tired, not tired, if it's cold, if I want to see a movie, or if I just want to do something else, I will never quit. And 53 years later, I still didn't quit. And I
And that was
still
Kyokushin.
I started with Kyokushinkai Karate. I did it for the first 2 years. Then the teacher, his name was Gideon Kadari. Gideon Kadari was actually mainly a judo guy, but he studied in Japan, I think, for about 8 years. And he also studied Kyokushinkai Karate, but his passion was really judo. And after he left the school to open another school, became a Japanese instructor. His name was Hiroshi Kurihara, and he was teaching a mixture of Shotokan and Shitoryu, Seishinkai, that was Kuniba's organization.
Mhm.
And I became his student. But not until 1975 that I met the person I really consider as my teacher, and it's Thomas Weber from Sweden. He came then to visit Israel and stumbled into our dojo, and basically he came in and he blew us away. He blew us away with his techniques and the way that he taught and the efficiency of his techniques. Because at that time, I was thinking maybe to leave karate and to do Thai boxing. It was just arriving to Israel. and traditional karate started to look to me a little bit inefficient. And only when Sensei Thomas Weber came and he did what he did, we saw how efficient it is. Even my teacher Hiroshi became then his student. So I stick to karate. That's basically it. I did some other arts as in conjunction a little bit, but karate is my main passion until now.
And do you still hold rank in
Yeah,
karate?
I still train, I still go, I still until okay, so in 1978 or 79, I got my first dan. I was still in the army, in the Israeli army, and I basically went when I finished training to Sweden to my teacher's dojo, to Thomas Weber's dojo. And I trained there. I was stayed there for about 3 months. I lived in the dojo. His best friend was Oka Nigren from the Kyokushinkai dojo. He was a student of Brian Fitkin. That's how I met Dolph Lundgren. This is
Oh wow.
1980, when he didn't know that he'll be a movie basically actor. This is how we met. I even went to the Kyokushinkai dojo to train. My teacher, Thomas Weber, took me there. And I opened a dojo in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in 1979. I was a chief instructor of around, at a certain point, we had about 12 dojos all over Israel. The name of the organization is called Sanshinkan. And basically, I was running it until 1988. 1988, I decided that I want to pursue directing, and I left to the States, but I still kept on training, and I kept on training with every place that I could have gone. I went to the Jet Center in Los Angeles,
LA, yeah.
to Takobota Dojo, also in Los Angeles, Oshima School in Los Angeles. I don't know how much you want to elaborate on karate. I can talk about it for hours.
Oh well, this
Yeah.
podcast we talk about two things mainly. Well, three things really: martial arts, filmmaking, and comic books. I'm a martial artist. I have a school here in the Houston, Texas area, Axiom Jiu-Jitsu and MMA, where we focus on kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Eric Paulson. I don't know if you're familiar with Eric Paulson.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I met him
Mhm.
once.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, yeah, we're under.
Student of Danilo Santo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The
Yeah.
Anasanto lineage. So the
Yeah.
kickboxing style we teach is the Anasanto blend. It's STX kickboxing, and
You
of
know
course,
Tsuyoshi Abe?
what's that?
Tsuyoshi Abe.
Not familiar.
Okay, he's Danilo Santo's assistant, and
Is it?
he's also a stunt guy. And anyway,
Oh
sorry.
yeah, yeah. Because Eric came out of stunts, and with Chad Stahelski, of course, where everybody knows Chad
Yes.
Stahelski now. Actually, STX kickboxing. One of the creators was Chad Stahelski. So the I teach a style of martial arts invented by the director of John Wick.
Yeah.
But so we focus on filmmaking, martial arts filmmaking. That's my movie right there, Lion Killer. It's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu themed movie. It's been out for a couple years. And comic books. I have a comic book coming out called the Gentleman's Guild. So storytelling is a big part of this, but also the journey of the martial artist. And it's interesting to have you on today because you blend all those things, really, the art of storytelling with the art of martial arts.
You know, my daughter, my eldest daughter, I have 4 kids. My eldest daughter is an MIT graduate in mechanical engineering, but she's also an author and a comics artist.
Mm,
She's writing 2 graphic novels. Her
awesome.
name is Jasmine Florentine.
Jasmine, I'm gonna look her up. Yeah, because
Jasmine Florentine.
I've
She's
just
very
finished my
good.
first one. So she's working on two right now.
She's working on 2 graphic novels. She published a book, but she also invented a helmet that car racers are wearing that is reading the brain pulse to see at the middle of the race how
Hmm.
the is working. They did it with Ford. And I don't know if you know, there's a robotic game called First that
Mm-mm.
every high school, many high school kids play it around the world. It's a big deal. She's one of the inventors of the game itself. She's a Renaissance woman,
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway,
That's awesome.
you
I'll
brought the comics issue into the table, so
Oh yeah, I could talk about martial arts and filmmaking or comic books. I could talk about all day. Now,
go back to martial arts. Really, my background is mainly Japanese karate.
mhm,
The problem with karate today is that it became a sport and it was kind of domesticated. If you compare it to the karate in the late 60s and early 70s, it was all about free fighting. I didn't even know wear a mouthpiece, neither to say gloves. All we wore was a growing cup. It was all about fighting. It was all about efficiency, and I still see karate as this. The problem is, again, a lot of it became a sport now.
that's what's
Uh,
happening with jujitsu. Actually, it's
it happened
domesticated
to
is
judo.
actually a good term. You know.
Happened to judo. Judo
Mhm,
only in 1964 became a sport. Before
mhm.
that, it was a martial arts.
Yeah.
When Jigoro Kano invented judo or changed Kano Jiu-Jitsu in the 1880s to be called judo, there was still kicks. There was
Mhm,
still punches in judo. And actually, karate owes its success in Japan to Jigoro Kano, the
mhm,
founder of judo, because Kano became a good friend of Gishin Funakoshi, that basically was the founder of Shotokan, but basically he's the one who brought karate from Okinawa to Japan in 1921. And it was Kano who basically mentored him and told him, look, if you want to make it into a mainstream, a canonized Japanese art, it should be taught in the university. They should wear a gi, because by then they were just wearing like short pants. You should, and in the 30s, uh, basically the Japanese canonized it. You had to, in order to be accepted in 1936, the Okinawan teacher had to call it a style, like the Japanese swords style. And styles were kind of created by name, because not because they wanted to, because they were forced to. And suddenly, at a certain years later, the style became a goal, kind of the gospel,
mhm.
this,
Yeah,
but that was not the original intention.
because how
The,
Sensei showed it, we do exactly like Sensei.
yeah, it was self-defense, purely
Mhm,
self-defense. Even in the forms, if you take the katas and you break it down, take out the fact that the movements look very kind of rigid or stylistic, because once you dissect it, it's self-defense
mhm.
movement that are kind of being camouflaged. But not so many people are doing it today. Maybe old school karate, but not what is called freestyle or American style. Uh,
Yeah,
that's
actually,
the
yeah.
story of it.
Yeah, actually, I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently who has a karate school, but they've gone more into the fantastical, the high kick, the tricking and the tournament, the flashy stuff.
The high
And
kicks came to karate from French Savate. They were not
mhm,
in original karate. I love to kikai, don't misunderstand me.
mhm,
Uh, But if you look at original Okinawan karate, they had a groin kick, a
mhm,
stepping kick to the knee that is different than the side kick, and a front kick.
mhm,
Really, that's what they had. Uh, a back kick without a spin, basically. Kicks, all the high kicks, the hook kick, the roundhouse kick were brought to karate from French Savate, because in 1867, the first expert who arrived to Japan when Japan opened up came from France. And by then in France, French boxing called Savate was popular. And in the 20s and the early 30s, the son of Gishin Funakoshi, Yoshitaka, that was very athletic, brought it into karate, like the roundhouse kick. That's why if you look at traditional karate, they kick the roundhouse kick with the ball of the foot and
mhm.
not the instep. I
Yeah.
mean, I used to kick it with the instep, and people were rejecting it when I started doing it in the early 70s. They were looking at me with crooked face. But the origin, it's from kicking with boots. That's why you kick
Mhm.
it with all of the foot or the toes. So the side kick,
That's
the hook,
interesting.
spinning hook kick, all came from French Savat. That's basically the real story.
Uh,
By the way, for years, the best karate in the world was not even in Japan, was actually in France.
Well, they
Uh,
then the Japanese also take the point system for their tournaments from Savat.
Savat, yes, yes, yes. And actually, it was Uko that was created in a way really in Europe, Jacques Delcourt and French, of course. Uh, this was, I mean, there was a system, fighting system, I mean, a point system kind of that was created in the 30s by Gogen Yamaguchi in Japan, like free sparring, because in Okinawa they didn't spar. And even though they were experimenting, they didn't know how to experiment. They used to experiment with baseball gear in the early
Like
30s.
like Miyagi in the Karate Kid, he put the baseball
Yes,
gear.
exactly, because Ken Wamabuni, the founder of Shitori, was experimenting it in the late 20s, early 30s in Japan. That's absolutely correct.
You are quite the historian
I don't
for
know.
martial
And
arts.
I told you, I love history a lot. If I wouldn't be a filmmaker, I would probably be a history professor and will continue to have karate schools, karate dojos in Israel. But sometimes life takes you into different directions.
Well, let's
So,
talk about that direction because I
yeah,
think my life and a lot of other people's lives would be truly different had you not gone into filmmaking. You said in '88 you decided to go into filmmaking. What
I, I went to film school when I was a student.
mhm.
After my military service, I went to Tel Aviv University and and basically I studied film and cinema. Uh, but then again, I never thought I'll do it professionally. But at a certain point, I did a short movie.
Well, let's back up real quick. What gave you that passion? Because you're doing karate, there's something in you that said, because I know I got bit by that film bug, and when that film bug hits you, man, it can hit you hard. To pursue that. Did you get hit by that film bug? What made you go, hey, I'm teaching karate, but I also would like to study film?
No, the film bug I got when I was, remember, you growing up in a country that there was only one TV station and its kind of broadcasting it really came in the late 60s. There was no TV station. So all you know, you go to film. And my passion was Westerns, especially the Italian Westerns, especially the Italian Westerns.
The spaghetti westerns.
The spaghetti Western, what it is called, yeah. Because I used to watch the American movies, John Wayne and movies, and you saw them. Of course, they're richer. There's much more production value, but they were always, for me, a little bit sugar coated, even as a child. And sometimes the pace was slow, and they used to waste a lot of time on a love story. And I used to say, okay, I had to ask my brother, who will go and fall in love with a man in his 50s, that guy? Doesn't work for me. Then came those Italian Westerns, especially the Sergio Leone Westerns, and that was a total different experience for
Good
me.
looking Clint Eastwood shows
And it
up.
was, yeah, but it was scruffy. It was rough. It
Yeah.
was also rough the way it was shot.
Hmm.
And the close-ups and the extreme close-ups, they fascinated me because again, I'm going to early 60s or early mid 60s. I'm pretty much a child, and I'm asking my older brother, who makes the decision what to show on the big screen? And he tells me that's the director. I say, whoa, what's a director? And he told me the director makes the movie. And I started really getting interested in movies. So I had a passion for movies already then, but I never thought that I'll do it professionally. Then in 1972, I saw Fists of Fury, Bruce Lee.
Bruce will
Uh,
change everything.
totally. Actually, the movie that came before was Five Fingers of Death.
Johnny
Uh,
Wang Yu.
yes, no, Lolier.
Okay.
Lolier. It was called here in America, I think, The Iron Fist,
Hmm.
Five Fingers of Death.
Yeah.
Uh, Lolier was the main actor, and I didn't like the movie. It was too violent for me. The techniques, were very, I didn't care for the techniques. By the way, there are movies before that had some karate, the Billy Jack movies, of
Hmm.
course, and the original Mechanic with Charles Bronson,
Hmm.
directed by Michael Winner, that there was a scene there with Taco Bota's dojo. And he's doing there a fantastic spinning back kick. And that was, again, 1972. But for me, it was Bruce Lee, because when I saw Fist of Fury, I remember I was so fascinated by his charisma, the techniques. And I remember when I walked back home, it was a matinee, it was like I was walking on clouds. And I said, wow, I felt that my life was really changed that day. Finally, I said, it's first of all, there is a sub-genre of martial art movie. You can do a whole martial art movie. But I, if already I took martial arts seriously, I took it ultra seriously at this point. All of those kung fu movies started to appear. I used to go to the theaters with a pad and a pen or a pencil, and I
Taking
used to
notes.
have techniques so I can use them later in sparring. And because it's a dark theater, it's all scrabbled, you know, you don't know what you wrote. But I used to go with those notepad, and there's some actors that I really liked much more than everybody, like Japanese actor Kurata, Yasuaki Kurata. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And there was John Liu, not Gordon Liu, John Liu, that they had
Hmm.
fantastic kicks. And I basically was going into their movies and copying their techniques. So
And so that years later, after you have this is while you have the dojo, you decide to go to film school.
I basically opened the dojo because I wanted to teach the way
Hmm.
that I trained. And the only way for me to do it was to open my own dojo, because other schools were teaching. There were about two other schools there in Tel Aviv. At that time in Israel, I'm talking about 1978, 79. Maybe there were 10 black belts all over Israel, very few schools. There was in Tel Aviv, there was a school that was teaching judo and Krav Maga, and there were Shotokan school, and I opened my school. There were about three schools, that's it. And I didn't want to do the other styles. I wanted to do what I did. And I opened my own dojo, and it was the only dojo that people could come and train there 5 days a week with no limitation. And it had a reputation of being a hard school. And then the harder you were, the more people flocked into your school, because
Oh, opposite than today, huh?
exactly, it was like, wow, they're very hard, they're very tough. That means they're very serious. Let's
Yeah.
go and let's go and train there. So that's how I opened my dojo. It soon
Now, go
became
ahead.
three dojos, and again, I was chief instructor of 12 dojos all over Israel.
So then that takes us to um, you make a short film. Is that correct?
I make a short film in the university, and I make it actually with a Bolex. The Bolex is the
Hmm.
camera.
I'm familiar.
There is a spring inside. The shot is about 27, 28 seconds. You cannot make it longer. There is no sound. All the sound is created later. I had for one or two scenes, I had like a camera that had a sync sound. But all of the rest of the movie I shot in Bolex. It was a futuristic action movie. It was the very first action movie to be shot in Israel. And of course, you can see that I'm totally influenced by the Italian movies, the spaghetti westerns, and of course, martial arts movies. Now, because I'm shooting 27 seconds, and before that in high school, I did with some friends movies in Super 8,
Hmm.
and, then again, you have only one role. So my method of working that was instinctively was to edit before I shoot. That means
You're editing in camera then.
I'm editing in camera. I know I have to, I'm shooting this sequence. I'm going to position the camera in the optimum way
Hmm.
and then say cut. And then not even say cut because saying cut, I'm wasting seconds. Move it to where
Stop
I,
it. Yeah.
and when I did the short movie, it was the same thing. So it was ingrained in my mind, but this is the best way to work.
It's
Uh,
opposite of what they teach you in school, though.
Yeah, no, but in Teach, they were more working on the theory. When
Hmm.
I came to the States, and after 3 years, I made my first movie. That was the dilemma because in America, they told me, no, no, you have to do a master and a coverage. And I'm saying, why will I do a master and a coverage for a big fighting scene that by maybe the first and second move, they are in position. By the third and the fourth, they are already not in the right position. The fifth strike is already a miss. Why will I do it? You
Yeah.
lose the you want to glorify the fight. And I had to go then towards 91, 92, 93 with people to explain to them that it's wrong. Of course, they thought I'm wrong because I'm a novice, but did it make sense to me?
Well, I like your style better. What you're explaining is for people that don't know is they teach you a certain method. You start with a master wide, then you kind of push in, push in, push in. So each one of these is a take, and then you'll get 3 or 4 different angles, five. If you're shooting an action scene, not only does it take forever, time is money, but also the way you shoot, because I've done this, it has more energy to it.
Of course,
Yeah.
it makes the fight into a fight.
Yes, it looks like a fight rather than something that was established and it's a choreographed scene.
Because what happens is if you shoot a master, you basically at a certain point, it's not directing a movie, it's documenting what the
Hmm.
actors are doing. That's not directing a movie.
That's
You
good.
don't document, you direct. Now, the big reward was when I came to the Power Rangers show. When I came to Power Rangers, they already shot 20 episodes. This is in 1993. This is after I shot my very first movie to Menachem Golan called Desert Oak. Name was changed by HBO to Desert Kickboxer. So when I came to Power Rangers, the reason why I came, they shot about 20 episodes, but it was a combination of Japanese footage and American footage. And the American footage was shot as a master coverage, and the Japanese, it was all edit to camera, including the drama. And it was water and oil, they didn't mix together. At that point, one of the producers, Ronnie Adar, actually two producers, Ronnie Adar and Jonathan Sahol, they knew me. And they said, look, we know of a guy, he's from Israel, he knows this genre and he's a martial artist. Let's bring him. And if it works with him, fantastic. If not, we'll bring a team from Japan. So I came and basically I shot a test fight to basically show and prove that I can do it, that I can do that style. And I remember then we shot it, and Chaim Saban came and sat and watched it, and he said, "Oh, now I think we might probably have a second season." Nobody knew that it will become a hit, but this is how I started doing it. Then it was the first season I was doing the second unit, and it was a lot of fun. And I started doing all the fights because only then Jason Frank, the late,
Houstonian. I'm here in Houston. He's rest in peace, Jason Frank, but he lived
yes,
here and I've met him several times. So yeah.
he arrived to the series and we started doing all the stuff with him. And I'll never forget, we shot the first stuff in Leo Carrillo Beach, close to LA, and it was all segmented. And I remember people watching dailies in the office and says, Isaac, if we didn't know you, people would fire you immediately because it's so segmented. We don't know what the hell is going on. Of course, once you put it together, you know what's going on. But I'll never forget that by the end of this week, of that week, we shot in downtown LA and we shot a big fight. And people were standing on the roofs and were cheering. And the same evening, we flew to some kind of a conference. I think it was MIP TV in Las Vegas. And I'm sitting in a plane, and the stunt team is with me. And I'm kind of going through what I saw, and I'm saying, maybe this show will really catch because people were really, really into it, you know? So that's
and
it.
and the rest is history. Another
Yes. Not only this, I'll tell you another thing. At a certain point, we had to cut all the headshots from the fights. And I was like, wow, all the kicks, all the fancy kicks. And we chopping the fights. And we went to the mix. That was Thursday evening. We finished the mix. It was already Friday at 4 in the morning. And in the mix, we were Ronnie Adar, Jonathan Saho, Ilan Rosenberg, the DP, Chaim Saban. And when we came out, and Yehuda Akos, the production designer, all Israelis, by the way, we came out and Chaim said, look, it was supposed to be broadcast the next day on Saturday. He said, if this doesn't go, then I know nothing about Kid Show, and I'm closing my kiosk. He called what he had like a kiosk. The next day it aired, and it became a hit, you know?
and much like I view like these waves, these landmark moments in martial arts, like Bruce Lee was a major landmark moment that an entire generation of people did martial arts because of Bruce Lee. I think the second one was the Karate Kid film, and that was pretty much my generation. Go to see Karate Kid, minds blown. You know, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people across the world start training martial arts again.
Yeah.
Now I'm meeting, kids in their mid-20s, 30s who all say it was Power Rangers.
You know, first of all, Bruce Lee changed the world, not only because before that, and I'm 66 now, an old man, it was like the yellow fever. This is how they saw, or the yellow danger. This is how they saw China. Here comes a man, and he basically changes everything. You know, suddenly a Chinese man can become a movie star.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it, by the way. It started with the spaghetti western. There were three Sergios: Sergio Leone, the king,
Absolutely.
Sergio Corbucci, who did Django, and also The Great Silent. A great movie. But also Sergio Sulema, that I think was a bit a socialist. And he did some movie like The Big Gun Down and Run Man Run. And the hero was the actor Thomas Millian, and he played a guy called Cuchillo that is totally illiterate and like total third world country. Third world. And he became the hero of those movies. And the world accepted it, especially, I mean, in the spaghetti westerns were very big in Europe, in Israel, that's really culturally a part of Europe, the Middle East, Africa. And then those movies, it's my theory, that helped the black movies, the black exploitation movie being accepted. And from there, it was easy for somebody that Chinese like Bruce Lee to be accepted. So why am I saying all of this? I'm saying that Bruce Lee changed the world. Now, with Karate Kid, it's a different story because then I had a dojo, and I remember people coming to the dojo. It was so packed, I used to tell people, please come in 3 months. I'm so full. Years later, I met Pat Johnson, that was the fight choreographer, and I told him, thank you so much. And years later, I met Robert Mark Kamen, the writer, that is also a karate bum like me, and told him the same thing, thank you so much. So it was a different influence with Karate Kid. And Power Rangers also was a different influence because it kind of rode over those successes in the States. But remember, the show Power Rangers, called Zhu Rangers, started in Japan in 1976. So, but then again, they were influenced by Hong Kong. So
now, speaking of Power Rangers, I guess because I am so close to, I live in Houston, and Jason David Frank was here. Do you have any fond memories of Jason David Frank on set?
because I made a lot of stuff with him. So He used to joke a lot. He was serious about work. He had a tremendous energy. He never got tired. Never got tired. Always let's shoot, let's shoot, let's shoot. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you had to bring him down. You had to, okay, stop, rest for a second. We got to load the camera. It was always prepared. Always came prepared, whether dialogue or fights, always prepared.
Yeah. He will be missed.
He will be missed. And I have to say, I learned a lot in that series. I did that series almost 20 years on and off. And people have to understand, maybe it's a cheesy kid show, but this show was a little bit of a hidden secret. Because if you look at every show, you have melodrama, you have action, you have like CGI a little bit or models. It's like a little movie. And because you kind of shoot to camera,
Mhm.
it's an experiment. It gave me, and I was shooting every day when I was doing it because I used to do it and go to do features, do it, go to do features. I used Power Rangers as a lab for me to experiment.
Yeah.
How can I shoot a whole scene with one shot? How can I shoot with split screens? How can I shoot with false perspective?
Mhm.
And when you shoot all the time, you gain the confidence and you gain the skill because it's like sparring. There's nothing like experience than experience.
Yeah.
And you know how to learn or tell a story basically in the most compact way and to tell the story correctly.
Now, your style of shooting, is it more akin to the Hong Kong style?
I don't know. I mean, by now I have no idea. I mean,
Where they would just, they don't, like I said,
it, it was,
they
it
edit in
was,
camera and just shoot
yes,
fast. Boom,
absolutely,
boom.
yes. But remember, then I started doing it in high school before even I knew what's edit to
Mhm.
cover,
Yeah.
you know. But absolutely, I was influenced by it. I was influenced mainly by Sergio Leone, that for me is
Yeah.
the director, and with action, absolutely, yes, Hong Kong style.
Now, how did you
Uh,
connect with Menachem?
so I did that short movie when I was a student. Was the first action movie to be done in Israel, and I put him in a festival. And I never thought that I will win everything because you go to a movie film festival because those movies in Israel they are considered as garbage action. And all the movies in the festival were either artistic or political or depressing or experimental. Lucky for me, it was the last movie that was shot in the festival. So suddenly, after 12 hours of people watching movie after movie and getting depressed, here comes a movie that is a total matinee, a short, a fun movie. People loved it. And basically, a few days later, it took all the prizes in that festival, because it's a very small, tiny little country. Then the country of 2.5 million people, maybe 3 million. Suddenly, I became some kind of I will not call it a celebrity, but it was scenes were shown in the television. I was in the television. It was in all of the newspapers, and all of the newspapers. And not that there is a lot, then it's all national. So, and the person that gave me that prize for that movie was Menachem's wife, Rachel. So Menachem was aware of this movie. A few years later, when I came to the States, he knew the movie and he knew that it's an action movie. By then, I did 10 tapes for, I don't know if you remember Joe Jennings and Panther Productions.
Panther. Yeah, absolutely.
I
All
did
over. Yeah, that
10,
was big.
I did 10 tapes for them, Shito Karate. I
Hmm.
did 10 tapes of them. So I went to his office and I had, by the way, two scripts that I wrote. One that was a Western that was done later called Savat. And the fighter, they call it in the States. And a very, very, another a script that could have been done for shoestrings budget, a really shoestring, called Desert Talk. That was Desert Kickboxer. So when I came to Menachem, I brought him, I put the 10 tapes on his table, and he kind of was looking and said, somebody already put some money on that idiot. Okay. And I put the script, and he kind of looked at me and says, will you do a 90, can you do a 90-minute movie? I told him, yes. He says, okay, you start. That's how it started. This is how it happened. And
I was born in the wrong generation. I was born in the wrong.
But it was 3 years after I came to the States of really hard struggle. And I shot it. I 16 days of shooting it. I said, no matter what, I'm going to finish it in 16 days. So they won't say he lied to us, he cheated us, he's a crook. No matter what, I'm going to finish it in 16 days. And I shot it in 16 days, and they really loved it. But not only they loved it, the movie basically was bought by HBO, and by then they were trying to sell a few movies to HBO, and HBO rejected, and finally took this movie. And they were so happy. And Menachem came to me and says, look, I have two news. One good, one not that good. I said, what's the good news? HBO bought the movie. What's the bad news? They changed the name from Desert Talk to Desert Kickboxer. And I hated that name. But that's basically it. That was it.
That's history. And that sent you on the path of like we said earlier in the introduction, of working with people like Dolph Lundgren, Antonio Banderas.
What's that? This was years later. Wow. Before that, this is 1991. I did a movie with Antonio Banderas in 2015. 2015, no, more. 20.
Yeah, it seems sooner. It seems more recent than that. It feels like I watched it about 3-4 years ago. But I would like to talk to you about somebody I feel is the Jean-Claude Van Damme of this generation. Of course, you know who I'm talking about, Mr. Scott Adkins. So he has that thing where first time I see him, I'm like, this is the guy. This is the guy now. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
No, absolutely. No. So here, this is how I stumbled into Scott. Around the year 2000. Okay, 1999, I opened a company with my friend Don Warner. Don Warner is one of the pioneers of in Canada. Started training in the early 60s, was Canadian karate champions in 1971, and he also authored many books and was manufacturing martial arts weapons with the Mennonites in Canada. He's a mover and a shaker in the world. So we met. I heard about him in the 70s because I used to read. Of course, Black Belt magazine, Official Karate magazine. This is how I learned English, basically, because that was the only way for us from a small country to going on in the world of martial arts. It was the American magazine and the French karate magazine, Karate Bushido, that was the best, actually. So anyway, I met Don Warner, and to make a long story short, we opened a company called Rising Sun Production, and we started doing martial arts instruction. And this was besides me doing movies. At a certain point, people started to send VHS tapes to us to the office because people knew that I'm a movie director. People wanted to get into the movies. So I used to get people that are good martial artists but cannot act, or bad martial artists but cannot do it, or bad martial artists and bad actors. And basically, at a certain point, I didn't want to see those tapes anymore. One day I came to the office, and Don tells me, Isaac, I think you should see this tape. I got it from England. And I told Don, I'm not interested in seeing tapes anymore. Don is a very polite Canadian gentleman, and he said nothing. By the end of the day, I'm about to leave. And he says, Isaac, I still think that you should see this tape. And I said, fine, put it. So he puts the tape, and there are some hero shots of Scott. And I say, okay, looks good, charismatic. Can he move? Then there is some martial arts techniques that he's doing. So, wow. But can he do screen fighting with a total different skill, you know? So then comes he doing stunts and martial arts stuff. And I was like blown away. And I'm saying, can he act? And then comes BBC drama. You cannot be more blown away. I took the phone. I remember I went, called him, and left a message. Said, listen, I don't know you. It's the first time I'm doing it, but in my next movie, I'll try to bring you in. I went directly to Millennium, New Image office, to my friend Boaz Davidson, that was the producer of really most of the movies that I did, all of the movies that I did with Millennium. And I showed him VHS, and Boaz had the same reaction that I had. He's a veteran filmmaker, he's a brilliant filmmaker, brilliant. And he said, wow, let's tailor him some kind of a part. We were then kind of developing special forces. So we tailor a small role for him to see how it will work. And to make a long story short, Scott came to Lithuania. This was in 2002. And he had a role in special forces. And I enjoyed it, enjoyed working with him so much. And I said, this is a star. This is a star. And then I was supposed to do Undisputed 2. And Scott told me, Isaac, if I will get the role of Boyka, I will, how did he say it? I will put my heart and soul to become that character. And I had faith in him. And I said, but Boyka was described as a big, ugly monster. And I had total faith in Scott. And I went against everybody besides Boaz that told me, you're doing a mistake. He's not the right part. He's a handsome English guy. How can he look like a monster? I had my faith on him. And I had faith on him. And basically, I told him, Scott, don't shave, don't cut your hair. He was training day and night. And I went to Bulgaria to shoot it, basically. And Scott came. We did an experiment with a makeup artist that I worked with her before, a veteran makeup artist. She had a lot of experience. And we cut his hair. We try to see what we're going to do. There's no tattoos, so I told the basically to prepare like fake tattoos, like stamps, so we can put on him. And at a certain point, we found the character. Remember, we cut all the hair, and then he took kind of whatever was left and put it like this. It was like a Lenin beard and mustache. And this is how the character was created. Added some scars and talking with Russian accent, fake Russian accent, of course. And the shoes, because Michael J. White, that for me was the only person that could play George Spurs, was the only actor to play it, was 6'3" or 6'4", and Scott was about 5'10". I told them to prepare shoes for him with a platform of about 3 inches. And I told basically Michael said, I'm going to put a thin jacket and Scott will put a thick jacket. And this is how basically we created that character. And I knew that this movie is different from me. It was not just an action movie. It was not an action movie. I said, I'm going to approach it as a sport movie. And basically, I knew that the audience will sympathize with the character because that character, though was a negative character, was a grump, he had his own sense of honesty. And basically, this is how it happened, you know, and the fight choreographer, J.J. Perry, now he's a big director. I knew J.J. before, way before, you know. This is how it happened.
And now Boyka, the characters, has its own life, its own movies. I mean, I'm all in. I can't imagine a different Boyka than Scott Adkins, right?
Yeah. Boyka, I think that people know Boyka more than they know Scott. It's like Sean Connery and James Bond, you know?
Yeah,
It's like,
Boyka.
yeah. You
Um,
know, I was in, I'll tell you a true story. I was in Sao Paulo, uh, scouting location in a favela, very dangerous favela where they shot City of God. City of God, the story happened in Rio, but it's really was shot in Sao Paulo. And I came there with the Brazilian producer, and basically, when we came to where we came to that favela, they told me, look, from here to the left, you can choose whatever you want to shoot, but here from the right, nothing. And I said, why? I said, yeah, because here they have their drug dealing, and you can basically, you cannot shoot, you cannot scout location there. And I'm looking, and the left looked lame, the right looked really interesting. There was like a creek going in between the houses of the favela. It was very interesting. And I'm telling the producer, listen, they know, the mafia knows that they're here. They gave us the okay to come here. We had in the van with us two of their soldiers, you know. Just tell them that there's this dumb American director that is that he wants to see what he wants to see. And the producer comes, says with a long face, no chance, you know. And when he comes with a big smile, said, you won't believe it? The head of the mafia is a fan of your movies. Later, the head of the mafia comes, young guy actually, and he tells me in Portuguese, whatever you want to see, you can see. I speak a bit Spanish, so I understood him. So basically, he joined us in the location scouting. It was very interesting, basically. But he knew the movie. He loved Boyka. He loved the ninja movies with Scott, you know. He knew the movies. So, and I remember that evening I was talking then to my late wife, and I'm telling her this about this, and says, of course they like your movies. The stupid action movie and the stupid violent movies. Of course they will like your movies. I mean, she was joking, but that's basically, that was the event.
about your career, and I guess my question is this: I mentioned earlier, man, I was born in the wrong generation because I always looked at Canon films and people like Menachem, Roger Corman, these people like that, the kind of films that I want to make. You know, I don't know if those companies are still around. Where someone like myself, you know, I've got one movie under my belt, can come say, "Hey, here's my movie. I could shoot a 90-minute. I want to do I want to do a ninja movie in the Philippines." I don't know that those companies still exist. If they do, let me know. And if not, what would your advice be for someone like myself, filmmaker out there, that maybe they've done a successful short film or an indie feature like myself? What would your advice be to get their second project off the ground?
First of all, something about the generation. I came to the States and my dream was to work for Canon. What happened when I came? Canon crushed, was not existing. Menachem Golan opened a company that was doing very low budget called 21st Century. When I did Desert Kickboxer or Desert Oak, it was 21st Century. So it's kind of, I also felt that I miss the bus or the train.
Yeah.
Another thing, by then you could shoot only on film. Okay. Now you can shoot on your phone. You can shoot a movie on your phone. And it's true. At that point, at a certain point, video was king. You could do junk and you could get the distribution. So there's always a give and take. So the good thing is that today you can shoot a movie extremely cheap with broadcasting quality, and it will not cost you an arm and a leg.
Yep,
Now,
I did it.
distribution is the key. Exactly. And you can edit in your computer. We used to edit in a Stenbeck, you know. I mean, it's like a photo, you know. A lot of work, very expensive, very tedious. You can do everything today in your computer. The one is the distribution. I don't have an answer for it. Look, I'm a director, I'm not a producer. I know that there are companies that are still distributing very low budget movies. So it's how much you really want to earn from
That's the thing.
these movies. First movie, I didn't make a penny. I didn't make a penny.
Yeah. No, I know
So
the feeling. Yeah.
it's like, and I didn't care about it because at that point I said, wow, people are offering me to do a feature film and they're even paying me. Wow. Okay. That was, so it was, it's such a burning desire to do a movie.
Yeah.
So that's basically, I was willing to do everything to do a movie. And so what I'm trying to say, the tools are here now.
Mhm.
If you do something, I think there are a small company. If you go to the AFM, there are small companies that are will distribute small movies. I don't have them right now on top of my head,
Yeah.
but there
Yeah.
are. You know that probably you won't make a penny, but
Exactly.
uh, but then again, it opens the door for you to do something interesting and showcase it, and maybe from there getting something bigger, because
Yeah.
that's the trick to do something and to get from there something better and bigger.
Yeah. That's where I am. Currently Lion Killer, my feature. It's it's available on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Freevee. There's this full Spanish dub, which is pretty interesting. I sat back the other day and watched it in Spanish. But yeah, making money from it.
That's very good.
Oh, thank you, sir. It's like you said, it's this burning desire. Um, but I think there's a whole group of people like myself. I have a few other friends here in Houston that are filmmakers, or even done more films than I've done. It's making it a career is the hard part right now. Making the movie, it's still difficult because movies are just you know what it's like to make a movie. It's very difficult, especially on a low budget. It seems like in the past there was a few people that championed filmmakers, but there were less filmmakers also. Now there's a ton of filmmakers and a ton of movies.
There
Um,
was less, but there were more. There were less and there were more, because when the video was king,
mhm.
there were a lot of filmmakers and they were doing a lot of low budget movies. But at a certain point, when streaming came and Netflix came into the game, a lot of companies basically closed down. And I felt that I'm one of last of the Mohicans that are kind of still doing these kind of movies. So I don't know the situation of the market here. Remember, for me, I was breaking in the 90s. This is
Mhm.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're glad you broke in, and we're glad that you have had the career you've had. Um, with everything that you've done, um, what are some of the lessons you've learned along the way? Could be lessons in life, could be lessons in filmmaking, but what have you learned along the way?
you go with your stomach. If you have a hunch or if you make a decision, go with what you really feel inside, because sometimes you get advices and they really meant well, but the wrong advices. When you get the opportunity already to do the movie, pre-plan everything. Please, because all I did was really low budget movies, I try to stretch the envelope in every way that I can do. So for me, I prepare the movie production, which means the hardest part for me is casting and to find locations. Because once I find the locations, this is when I know that the movie will happen. And then I sit and I take the script and I basically shortlist all the movie. Maybe not the entirely, but the shortlist, I know exactly where I'm going. I know which direction I'm going. Another thing that is easier today is the previews. I never had any previews until I did Ninja Shadow of a Tear. Never had previews. You had fight choreographer. In the beginning, I was choreographing. Then I brought, because you cannot do everything. Fight choreographers, and there is no previews. You basically see the segment, see the fight divided into segment, sometimes on the spot, and do it. Then there's nothing like experience and experience. Today, previous, you can already shoot the fight. You have it before you shoot it, you know? So everything is in your side. The technology is there. The only thing that is hard to get is distribution. But once you have a product, you can get the distribution. So in many ways, it's easier because you can come up with the product. It's harder because you have to find the distribution. But you can go and shoot with your phone today.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there is a give and take. I mean, it's like you say, okay, maybe distribution then was easier. Maybe, but it was harder to do the movie. Now it's easier to do the movie, and that's what you're doing. But once you have something good in your hand, it's easier to find the distribution.
Absolutely. And you could definitely, there are smaller companies out there. I signed with one. But there's obstacles in every, if you want to, the life of a filmmaker is much like the life of a martial artist. Yeah, exactly. This is the life of a Ronin. You know what I mean?
It's also in martial arts, it's like you're teaching somebody a spinning hook kick or whatever, and they fall and whatever. Listen, if it was easy, everybody would have done.
Yeah, everybody be doing it.
You go and you do it again. Basically, you immerse into it. And there's one thing that we as martial artists, we know. There is no impossible. There is no, I cannot do it. I will try and I will try. There is a famous Japanese martial arts saying, 7 times down, 8 times up. Fall and you fall and you fall 7 times. And by the 8th time, you stand up and you manage to do it. You're basically never to give up.
Good advice. Now, do you have any funny stories on set or anything Scott Adkins ever did, anything Dolph ever did? Any funny stories along the way?
Dolph has a great sense of humor, by the way. Dolph has a great sense of humor. So, and Scott also. I mean, Scott is very serious. Scott, when he comes, is a thinking actor. He comes prepared. He knows the character. He comes to work. The same with Antonio Banderas. I mean, those people who made it, they come to work. They don't come to play. They are listening to what you want. They also have their own ideas. And it's like they're not coming to play. Funny stories. I'll tell you a very funny story when we were doing Ninja, the first Ninja. Okay. There was a big shot, a frame shot of 360 degrees. And I shot it with Ross Clarkson. I did about 10 movies with Ross Clarkson, which Ross Clarkson is the best DP and camera operator when it comes to action movies. The best, absolutely the best, unbelievable. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking to the monitor. And it's a big shot. And it's night, and Scott is already is about to do a flip from a tractor down in a ninja suit. And suddenly I see a figure in the screen that doesn't have to be there. And I start to be upset. That was me. I was wanting to get upset, but that was me. I didn't move. It was a 360-degree shot. I ruined the shot.
I did the same thing once with sound. I got on the sound guy, but it was me. The mic was on me the whole time.
But sound is okay, because sound, and I always tell sound people, my objective is to get the picture first. Sound you can always fix.
Yeah.
And they're upset at me. But I want the picture because we're shooting low budget. And get first the material. Sound you can fix.
Yeah. Well, with my movies, but especially like my feature Lion Killer, like wrote, direct, acted. I recorded sound, so I would do wild lines after we shot, because I didn't really, I wanted to make sure when I got into because I edited it myself, sound designed it myself. I want to make sure when I got into post, if we didn't get the lines live, during the take, I had the wild lines. I had the ADR that we did on set.
Yes.
So I made sure I had everything. But really, it seems to me, I try to do as much as possible to make the film as cheap as possible. It seems like a lot of my peers kind of scoff at that because they want to be able to hire. We had a DP on set for Lion Killer and some other things, but Do you suggest people learn as much of the craft, do as much of the craft as possible, or do you think it's better to hire out people that are better than yourself?
Hire out people that are better than yourself, especially a DP.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. There you go, people. Hire out. Don't do it the Derrick Fury way. Do it the Isaac Florentine way. He's much more successful, and
You surround yourself with good people, they make you look good.
it's very true indeed. Any last words? Anything you would like to tell the people out there?
No,
Anything you have coming up? Anything going on?
I'm finishing my last movie, Hellfire. It's in post. I don't know what's next.
Who's in Hellfire?
Stephen Lang, that is doing all of his fights, basically almost all of his fights. He's 70 years old, from Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
And Harvey Keitel.
Oh, wow.
And Johnny Young, who is also was the fight choreographer, and also did some of the second unit. And basically, we shot it in Arkansas. Low budget movie.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for your time, sir.
So, my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. Take the camera, go and shoot. Take the phone, go and shoot. You know.
Yeah.
One thing I have to say. Listen, that's important. The most important thing is the script. The most important thing is the script. You can do the best action that you want. If the audience is not attuned emotionally to the movie, the script is the most important thing. If you have a good script, you'll have a good movie.
Well, thank you for that advice, sir, and thank you for your time. I look forward to your next film and many of the films afterwards. I hope we can stay in touch in the future, and I'll be seeing you soon, sir.
Thank you.
And there you have it, sage advice from a legend in action filmmaking, Mr. Isaac Florentine. Now, if you want to connect with him, his links are in the description. Also, make sure you watch his movies. They're a whole lot of fun, and I want to thank him one more time for coming on FURYCAST. You can also follow my new graphic novel, The Gentleman's Guild. Yes, I'm making a graphic novel. It's called The Gentleman's Guild with artist Ebi Canales. You can sign up for the mailing list now. The link for that is also in the description. And don't forget to watch Lion Killer, my debut feature film. That's right, I made a movie. It's called Lion Killer. It stars Regina Ting-Chen, who's currently on season 4 of Stranger Things. You can watch it at Amazon Prime, Tubi TV, Freevee. There's even a full Spanish dub on the Cine app. Once again, thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, comment down below. This is Derrick Fury. Until next time, peace.